question from Lisa Monson, which I just want to make sure is addressed. She says, to clarify, are you advocating that we should be making prioritization decisions based on unit economics?
I'm going to say yes, but Johan, you can take that.
I think so, definitely. I mean, typically the structure that we would have for prioritization in products very much lends itself to like this model, right? Usually the impact part of like an ICE score, which is like impact, confidence, ease, like how easy is it going to be to build? How confident are we that it's going to have this impact and it's that easy to build? And the impact score itself has to come from a calculation. It's not just, you don't just like kind of out of thin air say, okay, it's, it's a 5 out of 5. It's how do you come up with that impact score? There needs to be some kind of a calculation there. And typically it's done through some kind of a time-bound goal, right? So like if you use OKRs, for example, it'll be one of the key, the objectives or key results that you're trying to drive. And so I definitely think that like, that's the unit economics are kind of the underlying foundation. The strategy kind of lays above that because the unit economics kind of dictate a little bit the strategy, because you may notice that, well, okay, your churn rate is out of control or your CAC is out of control. So actually for the next quarter, we're going to try to reduce CAC. And then the product manager working across the different functions trying to figure out, okay, which feature should we build next? Okay, well, we have to reduce CAC this quarter. So that is based on the unit economics one, but the I'm rolling over my words. The unit economics model is kind of the foundation for the strategy, which then is the foundation for the prioritization.
Yeah, and I clarify. So that should you make decisions based on unit economics? You should make decisions. That doesn't always mean that you're gonna, I will only do this if the unit economics say it. It's that you understand what the unit economics are within your business while you're making decisions and what those trade-offs are. So I think there's a little bit of nuance in that question. And I think that there's one concept that I want to make sure that we're getting across is that as you release a product, like so in the early stage of scaling, you have something and it does 10 things, right? Just out of example, it does 10 things, and you've sold that. You've sold a subscription that does 10 things. So there is value to those 10 things. And then you start to add 15 things and 20 things. The reality is that somewhere between the 10 or 15 things, right? That's actually a unit. And as your units or products mature, they tend to have super high margins in SaaS because you build them once and they should have a very low cost to support as you scale. The issue is when you start adding 30 things to it and 35 things and you don't start breaking it down into smaller units. And one of the things in SaaS that you want to remember is you have a revenue line, you have a cost of goods sold line, which gives you your gross margin. And inside of those things, you should have at least one unit. I'm going to call it a unit. You can call it a product. You can call it a package, whatever it is that you can get your head around. But there should be one of those that is contributing massive amounts to gross margin. Now, that doesn't mean your gross margin is huge because you have new products or new things that are coming up that don't have the same gross margin attribution. But if you just try to keep selling all of the new stuff all of the time, you will never get the gross margin you need to actually fuel more innovation. So really understanding what that revenue and cost of goods and then how much, below the line is actually being spent on that. Really understanding that and knowing in that mix that you've got some that contribute high gross margin and some that contribute low. That low one is usually the one that's giving you the future value. So you really need to have both in there, and they exist in there, but it means getting into the detail and getting the data in your company that does not sit in a G&L to go get. It sits in the marketing systems. It sits in the product systems. It sits in the customer success systems. It does not feed to any G&L or any finance system that feeds to a G&L. So you have to figure out ways to get underneath that data to help you understand it. And it has absolutely nothing to do with closing the books. It has to do with making decisions on where you prioritize.